Hi, welcome back. We're going to take a look today at exercise 3 in FreeCAD point 19. In this exercise, we're going to take a look at the functionality that you see down below there on the screen. It's actually a forged ratchet body. Some of the more complex things that you'll notice is that we have a recess here that we're going to create. And that's using an offset. Now there's lots of videos, well not lots, but there's a few videos on using the offset tools, none of which really helped me all that much in figuring this one out. Again, there's not a lot of information that I can find on it, but then again, I didn't look all that hard. But we're going to go through that, and also we're going to look at some of the other functionality going between part and design, or part design, I should say. So let's begin. We're going to start with the head and then work our way down to the handle and then put the details in. So I'm going to go to New, and we'll go ahead and first make sure we set this to Part Design. And go to Model. Actually, you could go right here to Create Sketch and select the XZ plane and hit OK. Now we're going to start off with a line. So go to the Line tool and right at this origin click and make sure it's going vertical. Notice I have the vertical symbol to the right of my pointer. It's that vertical red line. And just click again. And let's add a dimension to that immediately. So you could go to the Dimension tool and just make that 0.75. Now if you're wondering where you could find this information for the dimensions that we're using, you are able to find it on vertanu1.com. And so it's a little slow today. But anyway, in there you could go to instructional manuals. That's very slow today. And you'll find the FreeCAD Basics Training Guide. And again, this is in preliminary work mode, so it's not finished by any stretch of the imagination. This is exercise 3 that you'll find in the book. As I mentioned before in my other videos, when you find this one, let's get down here. It's actually, I should have this ready, my apologies. Starts on page 30. And you can see here's some of the dimensions we're going to use. We're going to build that head that you see there. Okay, so the 0.75, we have a diameter of 1.2 and a diameter of 1.5, but we'll change that to radius, and then we'll go ahead and extrude this like you see here. We'll add draft and all that fun stuff. All right, so now that we have that line, let's go to the Circle tool, and right at that origin, click and drag out a circle like that. And at this point up here, click and drag out a bigger circle. Now let's go ahead and add some dimensions. So find the diameter constraint and just go ahead and make this, this is going to be 0.6. And then dimension this at 0.75. All right. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some dimensions to that. So let's do this. Actually, you know what? I believe. Oh, yeah, those are supposed to be. Let's hit Control Z 2 times. My apologies. I actually in the book I should use the book. We're going to constrain using a radius. The bottom one, 0.6, and this one here is going to be 0.75. There we go. That looks what's more supposed to look like. So it was just a matter of I used diameter by accident. We want the radius option. All right, now we could go ahead and take the Line tool and come off of this line right here. Now, if someone knows a way to have it wake up, like I know in AutoCAD, for example, you could hit the T button and it will go tangent to a circle. But here, I haven't found it when you come off of a circle. But when you get down to a circle, look at that. To the right of my pointer, I actually get the little symbol of coincident as well as tangency. So I'm going to click, and so I've added that there. That's pretty cool. I'll do it again up here, click up here. I could mirror this line, but I'm going to go ahead and add it, and then there's tangency again. So that just leaves these two to add tangency to. So we could go ahead and find, there's the tangency constraint. Just select this line and this circle, and this line and this circle. There we go. And it should turn bright green. That means it's fully constrained. But we're going to do some trimming. So let me bring out the trim tool so we can see a little bit easier here. It's over here. And there it is. And you just click on what you don't want. So click here, here, here. I did do this technique using the technique I used in SolidWorks. And I didn't have to trim at all, and it actually worked pretty well. But in this case, we're doing it this way. All right, so now what we're going to do, it seems to have wiped out our 0.75 radius, so let's just add that again. And that sometimes happens, 0.75. You'll see it will turn bright green. But before you go any further, hit escape one time. Now select this line, and we need to make that, right over here, if you click over here, you'll find a construction in construction mode. Just that one line, and it turns light blue. And that way it's like invisible to the extrusion tool once we go into that. Okay. All right. Otherwise, what it does, it makes a collection of surfaces, and it makes a center surface. And so you can't do that. And that's actually not all that unusual. That actually is how other systems work too. Okay, so now that we have this, we're going to go ahead and extrude it. Now, you might remember we hit close here from my other videos, and we've been using these tools like pad. Now, if we use pad, we then have to add draft, because remember, this is a forged ratchet body. There's draft or a taper on it. A taper allows it to pull from a mold easier versus having it straight flat, just like an ice cube tray. If you had straight lines on the edges, the ice cube would never pull out. So they put a taper on it, which is an angle. Now, we could do it this way. I felt that was more time consuming, and I wanted to show you this. They have like the part design, which you have these tools here, and then there's this, and they just call it part. I almost want to call it advanced modeling because it does some really cool stuff, but then there's some limitations to it as well, and you find yourself toggling between the two. But let's go to part. Now, once we get here, we have a whole array of tools to choose from. And we have extrude a selected sketch. And that's what we want. Now, this is the same almost as pad, but yet it's different. It's like written differently. So let's go to extrude. Now, what it enables us to do, this is supposed to be a symmetric part on both sides, and it's supposed to be 1 inch thick. So right here, you can type in 1. Turn on symmetric so it goes on both sides of the plane. Now, this is something that we don't have in the part design tools. We don't have the ability while we extrude, at least that I could find, and add a taper at the same time. So go ahead and type in -7, and right here, -7. And that's going to reduce the size, again, making an angle on there. All right, now we could go ahead and hit OK. And there it is. And you could see the taper on here. You see that little angle going across there? So that's what we were trying to add. And it's really nice that it adds that. But then you'll find there's other limitations in this tool that crop up from time to time. So I wouldn't get too excited. Anyhow, we're going to go ahead and create a plane. So we're going to go to create a plane. And again, there's probably ways to do a lot of this stuff. I'm learning it. I've learned about 15 different CAD systems. This one isn't all that dissimilar, but if someone has a better way, please share it down below in the comments, because I'll probably remake this video the next major release, and I could really learn from you. Okay, but anyhow, let's go ahead now. We're going to go back to part design. And so we've gone from what I call the advanced modeler to the modeler. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Part design, design. Okay, now that we're here, we want to create a plane. Now, right here is how to create a plane. First of all, though, let's go to Model and hit the little arrow to the left of the origin, and we're going to select the XZ plane. And actually, I'm looking over here. I'm sorry, not XZ, XY, because we want that planar to it. So XY, that's in the center. And I'm using this little tool here because you can't see a preview in there. Okay, now that we have that, we go to the plane tool, and you'll see it will start creating a plane. Now down over here, you'll see in the Z direction, knock that down, hit the little button down, and you'll see it will go all the way down to 4 inches, so -4. You could type it in. I'm just using the little toggle, which is actually really nice, and we want it exactly 4 inches below there. Because what we're going to do is we're going to draw a little circle of 1/2 inch diameter and then have it extrude up into the model. All right, let's go ahead and hit OK. And now what we can do at this point is we're going to go to, we'll stay here in Part Design to create our sketch. So we select that plane, go to Create New Sketch, and you could turn it to transparent if you want, like up here. We could go to wireframe, and then just so you can see what we're doing, go to the circle tool, and right at that center, drag out a circle, click, go to diameter constraint, and make that 0.5. And then you can hit close, and we see it down below there, but we're not going to use this pad tool. Now I tried to use it, and then I tried to unite the two, and I had some issues with it. So we're going to go back to the advanced modeler section, which is part, and just use extrude. So click on extrude, and we want it to be 4 inches, so just type in 4 right here, and hit OK. And it should go, and it will intersect into that part. You can see it right there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to merge the two bodies because they're separate. And it does some weird stuff here and there, but let's go ahead and try that. So what you do is you just, and I like to do it from the feature tree here. So I select extrude 1 and just extrude. You see they both highlight. And I held Control while I selected both of those. Now, order of operations matters only when you're removing or doing a Boolean removal or cut. When you're uniting them, it doesn't. As far as I could tell or ascertain, it doesn't matter. All right, now I'm going to go over here and we'll see the Boolean union. Now, there's two. There's make a union of several shapes, or there's just 2 shapes. I don't know what the difference is really later on down the road, if it makes a difference, but we'll just do the 2 because that's all we have. And you'll see here the first and second shapes. I'm just going to hit Apply and then Close. And now you could see it's no longer intersecting. It actually merged the 2 bodies. Okay, so now that we have that section, now we're going to go back to Part Design. And I would recommend saving it at this point. So go to Save. And I label this E3. And I'm going to call it E3B because I've made it several times already, practicing it and trying to find different ways, more efficient ways. And we could now also go to View, or we could go over here, I suppose, and As Is, or use V1. All right. Now we're going to make the handle section. Now, to make the handle section, let's go over here to Model. And we're looking for, again, I'm going to use my axis, the XZ plane, which is our front, and go to Sketch. And now I'm going to use a method I showed you earlier where I just draw it out here. And I'm going to go ahead and add some dimensions. It's going to be 4 by 1. And then I'm going to take line tool, here's the line tool. I get those two confused from time to time. As I get better at it, I'm sure I won't make that mistake. And then just draw this line. Make sure you get the vertical red line to the right to make sure it's vertical. And now what we're going to do, we'll add a dimension to locate that from this point to this point, and 0.5 so it's dead center. And let's just add a length dimension here of 3.75. You're probably saying, well, didn't you offset the plane 4 inches? Yeah, but we want it to dig in a little bit to the actual transition section, which was that rod we just extruded. All right, now let's go back and set wireframe and locate this. So to locate it, just hit Escape one time. Don't double click Escape. Remember, it exits you out of the sketch. Then you have to go over here. You have to click on the sketch. and find it, and then right click and edit sketch. Okay, but so select this point right here and hold Control and select this point here because that's where we want to lock into. Click on coincident and it should move right over for you. Now it's centered and we're done with it. So at this point we go back to tasks, just hit close, and we will return now. Oh, but before we do that, we have to change that line to construction geometry. Forgot about that. Okay, so now you get to see how to edit the sketch. Right click on the sketch, edit sketch. Click on this little line here. Click over here and find construction geometry toggle. It should turn light blue like we saw earlier. Now you can hit close and notice the line disappears. Alright, now we're going to go back to the advanced part modeler, just part. And we'll go to extrude because we want the draft on there again. So click on extrude. And this is going to be symmetric, and it will be 0.75 overall. And then again, we have to type in -7 and -7. Put the point just to make sure. Oh, there we go. All right, and hit OK. And there it is. Now, again, we could use the union tool. So select the extrude and the fusion, and go over here to union. Just the two parts is fine. Hit apply and close. And so now we have a consistent solid. Now, you might ask, well, why do you need a solid? Quite honestly, I've been doing 3D printing back on 3D printers were $500,000 and since 1993. And it is best if you have what they call manifold closed solid, like there's no fragments. But I've built them before where there's multiple solids, and the geometry just fills in. So it really, it's really nice to do it this way if you can, but otherwise I wouldn't worry. Now this plane, it might be annoying you. You can just right click on it after you select it and toggle visibility to hide it. Let's now go to as is. And we could see our body is coming to life. Now we're going to actually start doing, we want to do the offset. And this is where I had a challenge trying to find how to do this properly. Actually, no one, as far as I can tell, I've watched several videos, no one quite shows it the way I'm going to do it here. In fact, there's a lot of people who say, well, there's no other way to offset very easily unless there's a sketch. So we have to go first back to part design. And we have to select this face, start a sketch, and now you have make independent copy or make dependent copy or create cross-reference. Now, I've had problems with dependent copies and cross-reference ones. I've tinkered with those, I've tried all three, and I'm not sure if it was just because I didn't know what I was doing or what, but it seems as though when I make independent copy, it seems to always work. So I would recommend that unless, again, comment down below if any of you know a better way. But I generally would like to make a dependent copy, one that updates, because that's the idea of parametrics. If this ever changes, we want it to update. So I'm negating that wonderful feature that you have with parametric modeler to do this. So it's eventually, I think I want to figure out a better way. But here we go. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we want to steal the edges off of there. So right here, oops, I'm going to find this tool right here, which is create an edge link. So click on that. And now the edges don't highlight really well when you hover over them. You just have to eyeball it. Make sure the crosshairs, the center of the crosshairs is right over the edge you want to steal. Notice they're the inside edges that I'm taking. All right, now at this point we could hit close because we have our sketch geometry. And you'll see it generated this interesting little feature here. I'm going to select that. Now we go to the advanced part modeler, this part. And there is a tool in here. And where did you go? Okay, and right here it is. You'll see there's 3D offset and 2D. So click on 2D offset. You'll see it will start to make it larger. So we're going to put in a negative number. So negative 0.125 and pipe mode. I'm not sure if pipe mode really makes a difference, but once you hit skin, it seems to look pretty good. You see we have our offset, and hit OK. All right, so we've got our offset geometry. So we had to finagle a little bit, but it took the geometry we're looking for. Now, what we want to do is we want to extrude that. So we are in the proper modeler. We can go ahead, and I've extruded the surface once, I think, but sometimes I have a bit of a challenge there. So I actually just like to select the edges, like so. Oh, that didn't take. Let's zoom up there. There we go. All right, with those selected, I'm going to deselect that. I held Control and deselected. So I was holding Control while I selected those edges. A little tricky there. If someone knows the selection filter, I haven't really looked for it. I'm sure there's one in there. I just haven't found it. Okay, go to Extrude. Now this recess is only going to be 0.125 deep into the part. So I would go with Symmetric and set it to 0.25 so you have a little bit sticking up above the top. Now this is based off of an old modeler, okay? From most of them are all pretty old, but they've been changed and evolved, and they really work well these days. This one I'm not so sure. It seems to have some of the issues that I saw back when I used old, what they called Unigraphics 9.0, and also there was another package called Aries that had these bizarre modeling weird things that would happen. So anyhow, I recommend just having it go both directions. Symmetric 0.25 will be 0.125 below, 0.125 high, so it's making a little bit more material for us to select. Go ahead and hit OK. There it is. Now we could go, and this is where it makes a difference. The order of operations on how you select it will either remove it or add, cut improperly. So select the fusion first, and then hold Control and select the extrusion. And now I'm going to go over here, and you'll find make cut from two shapes. And there it is. Okay. Now it leaves like this surface, and later on you can hide that. We'll just leave it, and it looks transparent like they're seeing through it, but that's okay. It's still there. We're going to be able to work with it. You could hide it later. All right, so there's how to make a recess, and that was tough when I had to figure that one out. I know some of you will probably comment that it's not that hard, but I really couldn't find a good video or much how to do that properly. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in some additional geometry in there. So let's select that face. Oh, we have to go first. Let's go to Part Design, because that has a sketcher in it. All right, and the sketcher is what we want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and select that floor, go to Sketch, and now I want to draw on, there's a gear that's going to go in there and a little mechanism, so we won't do that in this class, but we're just trying to make the openings for it. So we're making a pocket, essentially. Now to do this, go to the Circle tool, and right at that point, click and drag out a circle, make it nice and big. All right, now this next one, most CAD systems you could hover over the edge and it will wake up the center. I am unsure on how to do that here. I've not figured it out. Again, if someone knows, comment. Please comment. Appreciate that, because I'm learning this too. Okay, and now we're going to go to the Line tool and select this point, drag up our line, and this is the locator line, basically. So click. Let's go to Length tool here. Make sure it's 0.75, just like it was when we first did it. I know there's a way to call up the sketch. Too much work. It's just easy to just draw a new line. I'm going to hit Escape one time, click on that line, and let's make sure that it's construction, because I have a tendency to forget that one. Right here. Just turn light blue. Now let's go to the Circle tool again, and we have a center point we could draw. Now let's click and draw that out. Let's go now to the Diameter tool, and we're going to use diameters here, 0.75. And the reason for that is because this would be milled out with an end mill, and have a nice 1-inch end mill that they could just click on. Of course, they might ream it and stuff like that, but we have that ready for us. Now let's go to the Trim tool. And just select what we don't want right there. preview is a little scary sometimes because it's like, whoa, the whole thing disappeared, but then it comes back once you're done. All right, and it didn't delete our diameters, which is awesome. Let's go ahead and close. Now, I drew that up on the surface because I didn't hide that surface up there. That's okay. This is going to go 0.825 deep. All right, so with that, we could go to Part and Extrude. So we're going to have it go, let's see here, 0.85. And this usually, it's weird, it kind of goes up sometimes. Sometimes I've had it go down. I'm going to have them both go 0.85, not make it symmetric. It is technically symmetric, but, and there's no draft needed for this because this would be milled out. Okay. And let's just verify that. Let's go to wireframe and just make sure it's not plunging through the base. Oh, that looks good. Okay, wonderful. And now we could use our removable tool. And remember, this is where the order of operations does make a difference. So select the cut first, and then hold Control, select the extrude. So basically, the removal tool is last. And there. Let's shade it. I'm going to click on that surface and just hide it, toggle visibility. You can hit the space bar and it'll do that too. And now, I think there's additional surfaces on here, but I've toggled the visibility and sometimes the whole part disappears, so I'm not going to go with that. All right, now there's the fillet tool that's in the part design module, or in this part there's its own fillet tool. And they seem to work pretty much the same. There are some differences to it. We'll just go ahead and use this one. So I'm going to select this edge, and this edge here, this edge here, and I'm holding Control while I select these. Now, the nice thing about this tool here, you could post-select. So you could select the fillet tool here before, after you select, or before. Whereas in the part design module, that fillet tool you have to pre-select every time, as far as I can tell. Now let's go over here to fillet, and we just set the fillet to 0.1, and hit OK. All right, and there we have the fillets. Now, the face tool seems to not work the same way. That's one of the really cool things about the Part Designer module. Its fillet tool allows you to select the face, but I can't seem to get the two to interact the way I would like, so I'm just going to stick with this one. I'm going to pre-select this edge, this one here, this here, whoops. Deselect that by holding Control, that there, and that there. Now, I'm going to select this edge here, and here as well. And with the fillet, you're probably saying, why aren't you selecting that edge in there? I've tried on my last model, and the whole transition section disappears. This was a phenomena that we would see with the old modelers. Remember, this is based off of technology from the 70s. Euclid, which was an incredible product for its time. It actually, right now, it still blows me away, the functionality that's in here. This is amazing. And those who are working on it, the team that's working on this, kudos to you guys. This is an amazing software. It really is, that we can do these things. And it's parametric. That's what blows me away. This is a tool you're talking was in the $100,000 to own back in the 90s. And it's free now. Okay, so let's go to fillet. And keep it at, we'll make it 0.03 to hit OK. All right, and this is what I mean. It put the fillet in on those edges, and that's okay there. But look at this. It's blocked it off. So sometimes, I mean, it doesn't look too bad there. You can actually see the blend or the fillet. But when I do it over here, the whole thing just blasts away. So I'm not going to do that. But that concludes this exercise, and I hope you found some of the things useful out of it. It was actually a challenge to figure out how to model this, but every time I get past a hurdle, I'm really impressed with the software. It has some quirks, but it's free. I mean, this is pretty darn incredible. Anyhow, that concludes this exercise. Thanks for watching.